Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today I am very excited to bring you this new review. It's one of the games that I was most excited to pick up on my first trip to Essen, this last Essen 2014, and that game is Aquasphere by Stefan Feld. Right now the prized possession in my collection because it's the only game I have signed by Stefan, and as you probably know if you're one of my viewers, he's by far my favorite designer. Now this game is one of his heavier titles. It's definitely more in the vein of like Trajan or Bora Bora than it is in the vein of the new La Isla or Bruges or something along that lines, although Bruges is probably in the medium weight of games. In this game, each player is a scientist on an underwater aquasphere lab type thing where they're trying to earn the most prestige or knowledge or whatever the case might be by doing different types of research and all types of things. Who knows? It's a point salad game. It really is. The theme's not important, so if you're a thematic gamer, it may not be of interest to you, but to me, it's a interesting meld of different mechanisms that all kind of interlock in an interesting way. So real quick, why don't we check it out? The game is super colorful, so it's going to look awesome on your screen. We'll see how the game plays, and then we'll come back here at the end and we'll get my opinion on this new heavy Feld game. So here you can see part of the components for Aquasphere. I'm showing you a player board and kind of the programming and victory point track over here, which we'll cover separately. Each player is going to have their own player board here, their own lab, as well as some starting components. Now, on this board, you're going to see an area here for programming robots. There are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different colors that you can program to, and each one of these different colors is going to be a different possible action. We'll talk about those momentarily, but know that depending on where you program your robot, this one is programmed to blue, you're going to get a different action when you activate that robot. In addition, you'll see some more information. For example, at any time you can unprogram a robot to get 2 time. More on what time's for later. Down here you're going to see a storage area for all of your robots. As you remove these robots, you'll be placing them on the programming area and then out on the board, or sometimes directly out to the board for control. Now you can't see that board yet, but you'll see more of it momentarily. Down here you're going to have a storage area for submarines. Having these submarines on the board is going to give you more time each round and is also going to let you score, because as you remove these robots, you'll see you reveal point numbers. And having both the submarine gone and the revealed points will let you score those points in intermediate scoring, so that's going to be good. Along the right-hand side here, you're going to see how you're going to get points during intermediate scorings. We'll come back to that, and how you're going to get points at the end of the game. In addition, above this little storage area for your robots and your submarines, you're going to see the 2 different possible actions you can take on your turn. Either programming a robot, or activating a robot by moving your scientist and placing the robot out on the station. Each player also starts with their own laboratory. This one is letter E. And you'll see that it gives you statistics as to what you can hold or do on your turns. For example, it says you may only hold 4 time markers, you may only have 2 upgrade cards, you may only have 2 crystals, and each time you kill the octopods, you may only kill 2 of them. You'll also start with some time. Right now you're going to start with either 3 or 4, depending on where you're at on the board, and you're going to basically have those things. Each player will have the same setup, but may have slightly different amounts of time. Over here on this track is where programming is going to take place. When you take the programming action, there are 2 ways you can do it. You can either pay 3 time once per round in order to program a bot wherever you would like out on this programming track, depending on which action you'd like to take. But note, you may only ever have 2 robots programmed at the same time, so I could place a robot out here for 3 time, and I wouldn't have to go through the normal programming methods. Alternatively, you're going to have to program according to this track over here. And to do so, you're going to be moving your scientist to one of the 2 possible spaces he can advance to. You'll see right here from the start space, you can either move to this white or to this red based on these 2 arrows. That means if you move to white, you will not be able to program the red action this time unless you have a special way of doing so, or by paying 3 time. Then from there you can either move to purple or to blue, and then correspondingly to yellow or green from blue, or black or yellow from the purple. So you're going to be somewhat limited in the action programmings you can take. When you do one of these movements, you're going to move your scientist there, and you're going to move the robot from the appropriate area, the lowest number that you can uncover, and place them out for programming, much like this. That is how you're going to program your robots. Now, why don't we take a look at the other board to see how things are going to play out over there. So here you can see the larger actual player board for the game, and what we've got is each player set up in their own different section of the lab. So you can see the red player is starting over here, which happens to be section E, matching their starting lab that they were dealt out. Now, on this board, you'll also see that they have a scientist, which is currently standing in the blue area. They have a submarine, which is essentially going to be giving them time each round. And they're going to have several different other pieces that are on the board here. You'll see that we have some crystals in each of the black areas. We have some purple octopods that are sitting in each of the purple areas. Some more time markers sitting in the yellow. And then basically that's going to be about it, except for this central thing here, which tells you how many victory points you're going to get for specific actions and how to replenish the board at the end of the round. Distributed along the outside of the lab here are going to be different upgrade cards and different sections you can add to your lab. You'll see that your lab starts out with one section, in this case E, but you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more around the outside of it to have 6 different sections, which will upgrade your capacity to hold things, as well as give you some potential endgame scoring points. So around the outside here we have these different cards, which will give you different abilities if you pick them up, but right now you can only hold 2. And you'll have the different upgrades, which will give you different statistics. Now, we've already covered the first action, which is programming robots, by either paying 3 time and programming it wherever you want once per round, or by moving your scientist over on that other track to program a robot based on which color you end up on. The other action you can take is going to be using one of your robots from your programmed area. Now remember, I said you can only program 2, so now that this player has programmed 2 robots, they're going to have to activate a robot. To activate a robot, you're first going to have the option of moving your scientist to a different section of the lab. The reason you may want to do this is because there are different things placed in different areas. You can see there's only 1 octopod here, while there's 3 here, or 2 over here. Or you can see that I already have a submarine placed here, which means I can't place another submarine in this area, and I'd want to move somewhere else to do so. In order to move your scientist, you're going to be paying time, and you'll see that between each of these different areas of the lab, there's a little number. 1 here, 0, 1, 1, or 2. When you move from one area to the other through these gates, you have to pay that much time. So if I wanted to move from here over to here, it would cost me 1 time. 1 plus 0 is 1. I would then discard that time and I would be in a new area. But let's say that I only wanted to move here. It would still only cost me 1 time. Once I've gotten there, I can activate one of my robots. In this case, I would probably want to activate my submarine robot. I would place my scientist on the blue area of that tile and activate my submarine robot. I would place this robot in the central portion of the tile, which indicates that I control this tile currently. Now, if somebody else were to come and activate something on this tile, let's say blue came along later, it would bump my robot off, and now blue would control this tile. This control is good for getting points at the end of the intermediate scoring round, so if you have the majority of the area controlled, you're going to score some points. In addition, bumping people's robots into this storage area will allow you to eventually return them to their board. Once this is full of 5 and a 6th one gets bumped in, everyone must take all but one of their robots back and place them back on the board, which will basically end up losing them points or not gaining them as many points when an intermediary scoring comes around. Regardless, once I've placed my guy on here, I'm going to take the corresponding action for what I am standing on with my scientist. So in this case, it's going to be placing a submarine. I would then take a submarine, the furthest left one from my board, and place it out here. This will cost me 1 time because it shows an X through 1 time on here, and I'll pay another time for my supply back to the main supply, and this will get me some victory points. You see this light bulb here with a little hexagon in it. This corresponds to this light bulb out here, which will earn me 2 points that I will mark over on the scoring track. The other actions would all work in the same way. You have to have a programmed robot, you'll move your scientist as far as you need to by paying time, place the scientist on the appropriate colored area, and place your robot in the center, bumping any robots that happen to be there. Those actions are the green action, which is take this tile that's out here and add it to your lab. So if I wanted this E tile, I would of course program a green robot, place it in this area, and take the E tile and add it to my lab. You'll note this gives me 2 E's, which isn't great for endgame scoring, but it does let me hold extra crystals, which are good for scoring throughout the game. So there's a different benefit there. Or some of them will give you more time, or just 2 letters. In addition, whenever you take one of these, you get to place out a robot to control that corresponding section. So E in this case, and I could place out one of my robots from my area in order to control E, which would then bump any other robot out and into the storage area. The next thing you can do is you could take black. Whenever you go to black, you're going to place your robot out and you'll take all of the crystals in that area up to your maximum number of crystals. These crystals are important for scoring points because out on this board over here, you're going to see that every time you score points, when you get to a certain number, you're going to hit one of these lasers. If you don't have a crystal, you can't score the additional points, or you must deprogram a robot in order to continue scoring points. But either way, if you have neither one of those things, you're going to be capped on the number of points you can score. The next thing is going to be octopods. When you go to an area with octopods, you'll place your robot, and you're going to kill octopods equal to your current number that you may kill, up to 2 in this case, or more if I had upgraded my lab. Killing those octopods will give you points, and they're going to be 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, or 21 for killing 1 to 6 different octopods at the same time. So you can get quite a few points by killing those. We've already covered blue. Red, when you activate it by placing a robot, is going to let you take the corresponding card in the area where you place your robots. These cards will give you different benefits, either once or infinitely throughout the game, or at one point that you want whenever it happens to be. Those could be, for example, anytime you program a purple robot, you get 4 points, or anytime you program green, you get a crystal. Or one time you may pay 2 time in order to program somebody on blue, whatever they happen to be. These cards will also get you points whenever you take them, equal to the number that's currently showing in the center, so in this case, 2. We'll go back to time now. The yellow action is getting time, and depending on where you place your robot, you're going to take the time from that area up to your maximum, of course, this time 4. So if I already had 2, I could only take 2 more if I were to take a time action. The last action is white, which is going to vary dependent on which area you happen to be in. Each area has its own white action, which is different, but essentially it's going to let you use a programmed white robot to program a different color. So over here, spending your white robot will program a black, here a red, here a purple, here a yellow, green, and again, white to program white. Sorry, that one's blue, my mistake. White to program blue. White to program white would be non-functional. So those are what all of the different actions are going to do. So that's basically how this outer area is going to work. Now, I've already removed the different programming areas from this, but essentially you're going to be moving your guy up, programming your robots, using your robots to take actions, and then continuing to move up to program more robots until you get to the dead end here. Of course, you can see there's nowhere else I can program. Once you've gotten here, you have no more robots you would like to use. You can't program any more new robots. You're going to end up passing, and this may not be the same order as you started in. It could change or it could stay exactly the same. But once you pass, you're going to place in the first, second, third, or fourth passing position, whichever one is the earliest open one. And this will be the round for the order for the next round, which will again adjust over here to show you the current player order. Once you've done this, once everyone has done this, I should say, you're going to go into an intermediary scoring round. The first thing that's going to happen is that everybody is going to get time equal to their number of placed submarines. So this is one way to replenish time without taking the time action on the board. After you've done this, everyone is going to have the option of using their intermediary scoring cards. So some of these cards will have things that you may do only during an intermediary scoring round. Finally, each player is going to total up the number of points they're going to score for this intermediary scoring round. Whoever has the majority control of all of these different areas is going to get 6 points, and if there's a tie, you'll get 3. Then you're going to count the number of crystals you have on hand. Right now I could have a maximum of 2, but if I'd upgraded I could be holding more. And those are going to get you 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, or 21 points, depending on how many you have. You're also going to get points for each of your revealed guys if you have the submarine removed as well. So for example, right now, if this was the current situation, I would get 2 points because this 2 is showing and the submarine is missing. But if I had removed all of these, this submarine corresponds to this column, and 6 is revealed, so I would get 6 points. But this would still get me 6 points because that submarine is not removed. In addition to that, you're going to lose points for octopods in areas that you control. So for example, this guy here controls this area, but there's an octopod here. For there being 1 octopod, he would lose 1, and then if there were more, he'd lose 3, 6, 10, and onward and upward for more octopods per area that he controls. Once you've got this number, you're going to advance your scoring token out on the scoring track right here. And you'll note, as I said, each time you get to one of these red lines, you either have to stop scoring, pay a crystal if you have a crystal, and if you have a crystal you must pay it, or deprogram a robot that you have programmed in order to pass this line. But that is not mandatory. You can choose to stop scoring. So each time you hit one of those lines, you have to pay out. Then you're going to proceed with a new round. Once you begin a new round, you're going to replenish the board by matching up the resources that you see on these tile here to the corresponding area adjacent to it. You would first remove all excess time from the board, and then you would replenish the board according to what it says on that central tile. So 3 time would get placed out here, along with a crystal and an octopod, and then 3 time a crystal and an octopod, 5 time a crystal and an octopod, and so forth and so on. You would then remove this tile, and you'll see that certain things are going to be worth more points in the next round. This is oriented differently, so new things will replenish in different places, and essentially you're going to go out starting a new round. You will also replenish all of these little additions to your lab, covering up whatever happens to already be there, if there is anything. And you will replenish the cards that are out on the board, covering up any that are still there. You'll then start a new round according to the new turn order, and you will readjust the order of how these programming things are laid out. So you'll see the first round, our layout was like this, but in the next round, it could be like this. And then the third round like this, and the fourth round like that. In addition, these will change every round, and in the last round, there won't be any replenishing, but each thing will be worth 5 points. After that fourth round, you're going to have one more intermediary scoring, so there's going to be intermediary scoring after each round, and then you'll have the final scoring. At the end of the game, you're going to score points for each lab section you have that has a different letter on it, or each different letter you have in your lab, up to 6 different letters. For one different letter, it'll be 1 point, and all the way up to 21 for 6 different. Each time you have left over will be worth 1 point, and if you placed all 6 of your submarines and have 6 sections in your lab, those will be worth 5 points apiece. Whoever has the most points through all of this will, of course, be the winner. Well, there you have it. That is Aquasphere from Stefan Feld, being published by Pegasus, Spiel, and Hall Games, and I believe in the United States coming through Tasty Minstrel. Matter of fact, I know coming through Tasty Minstrel relatively soon. So this isn't going to come to a surprise or come as a surprise to any of you who watch my reviews regularly, but of course I enjoy this game quite a bit. I'd say that it's probably tied for second in terms of my favorite Felds. After Trajan, it's just simply not as good as Trajan, and probably nothing will be in the near future, but up there with Bora Bora and some of his other games, it's definitely towards the top of my list. The game has a lot going on, and of course I always love that. I love the many different choices, but sometimes limited in terms of the choices you can make at each point, and this one definitely has that going on. With the programming track, you certainly can't always take the choice that you want. You have 2 choices of which way to go, and you can program one of those 2 actions, and that's going to seem limited to you, and it is a little bit limited, but you have to remember that there's always the option to pay 3 times once per round to program any action you want. There are cards that will let you program additional actions, and then there's the variety of things that you can do and places you can move out on the board, as well as the timing aspect to the game that's going to force you to think ahead. This is definitely a planning type game where you're going to want to be trying to think several turns in advance. Do I program right now in order to be able to move and program only 1 robot, then move, then use my robot? Or do I program 2, kind of delay a little bit, hope the board status changes some for my favor, and then go take my actions? There's a lot of things to figure out if you can figure them out, to do it before other players or after somebody else does something. There's a lot of choices there. And it'll be to your benefit to try and plan that out. So though it might seem linear or limited in certain places, just remember that there's a lot of variety there and a lot of timing aspects for you to take advantage of. And I think you'll have a good time. So a deep, complex game with a lot of different options that I think if you explore a little bit, you'll find there to be a great variety of play there. Something that you should check out if you're a Feld fan or if you're a fan of complex, deep Euros. So if that sounds good to you, check it out. That's Aquasphere from Stefan Feld.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.